Welcome to Facts TV News, where everything is true. Police grief. Cop in shock after teen brother reportedly kills himself with his gun. He is a mess. This is a grim assessment by a close associate of a grieving policeman whose teenage brother is believed to have shot himself fatally with the cop's gun as lawmen had a bath Saturday evening. The Clarendon police are now investigating the death of 16-year-old Javid Modi, but Deputy Superintendent Cardoso, Divisional Head of Operations, cautioned in an interview against labeling the incident as straight-up suicide. Though we are not necessarily saying that anyone would have killed him, we don't want to say straight suicide at this point in time, as it could very well be that this person was playing around with the firearm. You don't know, Cardoso said. The policeman has not been identified. Javid attended Central High. Sources inform reporters that Javid died in his brother's arm on the way to hospital. The cop is reportedly overwhelmed with sorrow. Everyone is just hugging him, and he is not even talking right now, said one source who spoke with reporters from the Top Hayes Hall home. The cop had reportedly come home from work, undressed himself, and headed to the bathroom in keeping with COVID-19 protocols. It's reported that Javid took up the policeman's gun, which was resting on his clothes, and went into his room. An explosion was heard, and Javid was found suffering from a gunshot wound to his head. Balvid Mackenzie, co-chair of the Clarendon Inter-Agency Network, said that an emergency meeting was held Sunday evening. There is grave concern about the psychological state of youth in community. He said the meeting was called to minimize the risk of similar occurrence and to activate intervention for youth already on the radar. Local and global surveys and anecdotal reports have indicated heightened mental health threats during 2-year-long coronavirus pandemic, which has shuttered schools for prolonged periods. It was observed that there are several other children or youth who might have been going through some stress in the community, and as such, special youth and children's intervention is being developed where all the agencies responsible for youth and children will be engaged in a walkthrough in the community, said Mackenzie. Edward Singh, president of the Hall Community Development Committee, reported late Sunday that the planning for intervention was underway before the incident, as stakeholders cited concern about a spike in fights among youth over the slightest thing. Those conflicts including stone-throwing incidents, trespassing, and theft. This is one of the concerns of the membership of my group. We feel parents under stress and not paying much attention to the children, said Singh. You have some children, from school open back, they haven't gone back to school. So that is one of the next things I want the Ministry of Education to look into. Rosalie Gage-Grey, Chief Executive Officer for the Child Protection and Family Services Agency, disclosed that a team from her office has already been deployed to the community, but she was yet to receive a preliminary report. Usually, when we go into the community, and if we get feedback, then we plan a community intervention with all the other stakeholders. So if there is a need that they have, then our team would respond as well, Gage-Grey said late Sunday. 7-year-old fights cancer, deafness, fresh-eating bacteria. Maybe because of her age, she doesn't fully understand the severity of her situation, and so she remains upbeat. Or maybe it's a mother's faith in God manifesting itself through a child. Whatever it is, 7-year-old Gabrielle Baker is showing the spirit needed to overcome adversity as she battles leukemia, having been diagnosed with cancer in May 2018 when she was only 4 years old. If that wasn't enough, Gabby, as her mother, Mona Barnett, 28, affectionately calls her, was confirmed as having a fresh-eating bacteria in 2019. Gabby began losing her hearing the same year. Initial tests confirmed she had severe hearing loss, while further tests adjusting the diagnosis to profound hearing loss. Since her hearing loss, Gabby has been enrolled at the Caribbean Christian Center for the Deaf in Casca Park. Research shows that sudden deafness can be caused by severe factors, including exposure to certain drugs that treat cancer or severe infections. A week ago, Gabby, her 2-year-old brother, and her mother from Portmore, St. Catherine, were part of a group of 10 children with cancer who received a dream weekend from Moon Palace charitable arm, Palace Foundation. General Manager for the foundation, Natalie Borland, said 10 children, their siblings and parents, numbering around 40 persons in total, accepted the invitation. "Trust me, it's a really good break," Barnett said of the offer. Speaking to reporters, Barnett said of her daughter, "She is one of them special age child that goes above and beyond their abilities." Barnett said her daughter was vomiting, having diarrhea, fever, and have cold bumps all over her body that wouldn't go away. Then her tummy suddenly started to grow. At the hospital, the first diagnosis was wax and cannon caused by an ingrown toenail that she had. Medication failed to help, so the mother took her back to see the doctor. There was this special doctor who said all the signs are leading down to the road of cancer. We get a bit scared, but I was like, listen, we can do this, Barnett explained. The night she was diagnosed, the Friday, they told us these are the signs. The Saturday, they confirmed it that she had leukemia. We actually cried the Friday night, so confirming it, we were already prepared. My mother-in-law, my mother, support from churches, friends, family, they all came together and they supported us throughout. Like any good mother, Barnett began preparing her child to deal with the cancer. Gabby lost her hearing and her hair. After chemotherapy in 2018, Gabby returned to school the following year. But by the second week in September, she suffered a bruise and became ill. They were treating her for the new case that arrived, and for some reason, she started having seizures, uncontrollable seizures, so they had to induce coma to get the brain to relax to stop the seizures. So she was in ICU for a little while, said Barnett. The treatment including a skin graft on her leg, removing the dead bacteria, saving the leg. But that wasn't the end of Gabby's trials and tribulations. The cancer was now in remission, but her mother began noticing that when she was watching television, the volume was set 4 times higher than usual. In despair, her mother took a binocular and blew it close to her, but she didn't respond. Medical examinations showed that Gabby had profound hearing loss. Barnett said the family has had difficulties coping. It's hard, but I have to know that I have to do this because at the end of the day, I'm the only biological parent for her in her life. My only girl Pitney, and if I have to do this, I have to do this in order to get it done for her, she asserted. Despite the hardships, Barnett said she's optimistic that Gabby's fortune will soon change. She is a miracle baby, trust me. When she was just diagnosed, we had this song that we used to sing, Jesus Says So, that everything is gonna be alright. She kept singing that song straight through, even starting a chemo. She was always bubbly like, said the mother. Persons who wish to assist Gabby may contact her mother Mona Barnett at 876-830-7084. Change approach to vax campaign, says Guy. Opposition spokesman on health, Dr. Maurice Guy, has reiterated that if the country's vaccination campaign was headed by non-political actors at the time of its rollout in March 2021, maybe more Jamaicans would have been willing to take the jab. Guy, who was speaking with reporters on Sunday, was reacting to a Bill Johnson Melo TV poll, which found that 67% of Jamaicans were against children 5 to 17 years old being forced to take the vaccination. Some 60% of respondents were also against mandatory vaccination for persons 18 years and older. Just about 23% of Jamaicans are fully vaccinated against COVID-19, nearly 1 year after the government launched its vaccination campaign. This is one of the lowest vaccination rates in the Latin American and Caribbean region. At the time the vaccination campaign was launched, Prime Minister Andrew Holness embarked on what the government dubbed a vaccination blaze. Guy warned at the time and repeatedly afterwards that the administration risked politicizing the campaign and turning off some persons. The country is basically split down the middle politically 50-50, so what you will find is that if the Prime Minister, who also happens to be the head of the JLP, Jamaica Labour Party, goes into a community where, for example, you have PNP, People's National Party people, they might not be minded to listen to him, and similarly, when the opposition leader goes into any community where they are JLP people, says Guy. We, the opposition, have been saying from day one that we need a non-political person, a person who has some amount of influence in the country, and someone who is respected to be in charge of the vaccination program, he added. Guy again pointed to Portugal, where in early 2021, the country's healthcare system was on the brink of collapse with a low vaccination rate and hospitals overflowing with COVID patients. The country's vaccination program was described as being shambles, prompting the government to turn to Vice Admiral Henriquez, a former submarine squadron commander, to right the ship. By October last year, newspaper headlines stated that the country had run out of people to be vaccinated, with up to 90% of eligible persons inoculated against the respiratory virus. Guy wants a similar approach to Jamaica's vaccination program, but said several things must first be fixed. According to Guy, the Ministry of Health and Wellness has basically hogged up the vaccination program from day one. He explained that while the majority of Jamaicans access their healthcare privately, it was public health officials who were administering the vaccines initially. The PNP spokesman noted that it took about 6 months for private healthcare providers to be brought on board, and Guy is insisting that the messaging around vaccines has gone stale. He questioned the means of the campaign slogan, "If you want to be a hero on the team, go and get the COVID vaccine." What does that mean? Guy asked, whilst pointing out that the message has been going on for nearly a year and no longer relevant. Guy said persons have tuned out the message. So we need a new message. We need new ambassadors, youth ambassadors, professional ambassadors. Guy told reporters that he has seen some semblance of this occurring out of the Health and Wellness Ministry, where doctors, nurses, and prominent Jamaicans are now being used to endorse vaccination. But we need for it to be more widespread, he stated. Guy also said that the way vaccination is done is also important. He has also preferred the approach of taking the vaccine to the people as opposed to taking the people to the vaccine, he said. When you take people to the vaccination sites, with the crowding that occurs there, you potentially expose people to persons who might have COVID and unknowingly they contract it while taking the vaccine, he said. And he pointed to some cases where persons were turned away from vaccination sites. We would prefer, if you really want to have a better program, to go into the communities as opposed to the community coming out to the vaccination center. This, said Guy, would cut out transportation costs and people would not necessarily have to plan to go to the vaccination site. Additionally, he said the government must engage community influencers such as pastors, community leaders, justices of the peace and teachers in the community to be part of the program of sensitizing and encouraging persons around them who they are familiar with of the importance of taking the vaccine. He said some persons want more information. They want an honest discussion so they can inform themselves whether they should take it or not. Government has not given the citizens the opportunity to have that discussion so the pros and cons of vaccination can be ventilated. When you have that discussion first, and then you send in your mobile unit or your fixed community sites in those communities, I bet you the take-up will be better, Guy declared. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, and click the notification bell for daily updates.